Hey guys, welcome to episode 16 of our of my podcast. Oh, sorry, episode 16 of my podcast. We're gonna be talking about the map removal and the and map additions with Radu, who is the community manager of MC5. One of the community managers now, actually. Yeah, there are two of you.
Yeah.
I've had Radu on here a couple of times. He's the guy who's kind of made this happen too. So, yeah, welcome back, man.
Thank you. Nice to see you. Sweet 16, always a good number.
Oh, yeah.
Hope so.
So let's talk about what happened with the maps. We logged on and we saw a few maps were missing. What was the thought process?
Yeah, like half.
Yeah.
So I mean the measure was kind of drastic, and it wasn't really put in as we initially intended. But the main point, as described there, is, and what we're trying to test is if by removing some of the maps that people aren't voting, that we would basically force players in a tighter matchmaking. Because the problem, or one of the issues, I think that players complain about in terms of matchmaking, and that will be just as relevant even when we introduce some further conditions to matchmaking, is that you have to have the people, actual people in that range to begin with. So what I mean is, if you think about it now, we have 9 maps and about just the same amount of game modes on each of these maps. So there are quite a lot of combinations of game modes and maps that you could be opting to, and having players that are interested in that specific combination, I think, especially for certain game modes, is not as well done at the moment. It's not as it doesn't produce the results that you guys are expecting as well.
So the intention was basically just to make sure that we have more people, pretty much more people in the lobby, because what was happening before was we'd have so many different people wanting to pick different maps, so that it would just we'd have maybe like 3 or 4 players picking one map, or or not very. Is that what you're saying?
Yes. Yeah. So there are 2 aspects here. So one is related to finding the right match, so having those 10 players and they would be close in terms of MMR, and the second one is the fill rate itself, so having enough players around the same MMR that are looking for that particular combination, specifically the game mode. So like if we at the moment there's still the fragmentation in terms of game modes, but we're going to analyze the data from these days and see, and you can also, guys, you can tell us if you've had fuller rooms, like fuller matches, like with more players generally being in a match, and let's say closer league wise, since you can't see a number.
Okay.
That's going to be very important. So
so
yes,
the data that you guys pulled regarding the popularity of matches, essentially, was that from just strictly ranked matches, right? You couldn't get the data from non-ranked matches, could you?
We could get the data from non-ranked matches, but basically, and it's quite the only place where you can actually make a choice is outside of non-ranked matches, but that's where like one person, I guess, creates and the other ones are interested, is the voting part at the end, and that's the data that we've been looking at. So basically where people had the opportunity to pick between these they chose to ignore that, so on. So this is also interesting, because this was the same case when we first removed overtime, and but then I can understand that everybody has their favorite map for sure.
Right.
Aside from conversion, apparently, at least from how the chat is saying, and I also noticed a lack of mention at all about removing it. So
I wasn't crazy about Canal, so I whenever that was removed, I wasn't I didn't cry about that. I was shocked that it was removed, but when the maps were removed, but I kind of understood the thought process behind it.
Yeah, well, surprisingly enough, I mean, that's a map that we also think it's not very popular, but I've noticed quite a few comments mentioning it. So that's the thing. It's like when do you listen to the numbers or to the comments, you know?
Yeah.
Um, so just to discuss a few things that people have mentioned as well. So some players are saying remove battle royale instead of these. So the second reason that we mentioned for the removal or the way that it was implemented is that essentially as we add more content, the app gets bigger and bigger, and there are players on Android uh, that have a problem with space, and they do mention that both in terms of how much they have to download for an update,
Yeah.
and on each update, one of the bigger parts is the map. So downloading all the map assets and so on, wherever we make updates.
Okay.
So in this way, we were aiming to make that smaller, and maybe have the maps re-entered as some limited events and so on, so that they will be temporarily available, but not necessarily having to have them at all times. So for the moment, especially after with further consider this, we're definitely not going to remove them like that. So we're looking for other ways. Though, considering as you mentioned, I think I think rooftops and conversion from strictly from feedback from the maps that we removed, though we didn't remove rooftops. I would say conversion and rooftops have been explicitly mentioned as being more unpopular.
Hmm.
Uh, do you know, or do you have any idea why do players, for example, for example, for you, you said the canals is the map that you don't particularly like, which is I find very interesting though, because you're a
A
sniper
sniper,
player at
right?
heart, and that's I think that's a pretty good map for snipers, right? You have a lot of places where you have a long range,
Okay.
and you have some balconies and so on, so
Right.
it's kind of
I
suited for that.
it's ideal for a sniper. The only reason why I've never really been crazy about canals, and this has kind of been a tactic that's been used in canals is canals is such it at least appears to be a much larger map than the other maps.
It
So
is. It definitely is. It's the
so
largest one.
right. So the problem with it, I mean, sniping great, but the only problem with it is that a lot of times, especially if you don't have a full lobby, which I've not really seen too much in terms of canals. You might have like for example, squad battle. You'll do a 2v2 or a 3v3 on a map like canals. I mean, an enemy can get a bunch of kills and literally just start running away. That's the thing. That's one of my issues with canals. I've had. You know.
So I guess it's a matter of it's a bit of a vicious circle, so to say, because the solution was supposed to address this as well. The fill rate, because that's essentially what you're saying. And to a certain extent, I also noticed that some players suggested that, for example, for this map, and I guess a few others like conversion, or let me, what else was it? I think there was one more. I can't think of it on top of my head right now. But the point was
Over,
that
I don't know
in
if overtime was mentioned again. People. I heard people complaining about overtime being removed, and some people just said they didn't care much for it. So I mean, it's
no, but I wanted to bring a point that the suggestion was, why not make these bigger maps require or have available more players to compensate for their size, you know?
yeah. I
So
mean, that would
uh,
solve that issue.
yeah, but the thing is, here we kind of run into a technical issue that which is kind of why the game has that limit. I mean, the 12 players in one area is kind of as much as in one particular place. I mean, you can put that's why in Battle Royale we were able to scale it to 60, and we can probably scale it a bit even further, because it's the amount of expected players in one place. If it's If it's greater than 12, then you start getting issues, especially with things that do AoE damage. So basically, that have to check a perimeter or whatever, and are affecting more people at the same time, since that information is to be related to the other one. So maybe I'm getting a bit too technical, actually. So the whole point is that unfortunately we can't do that without scaling the maps even further. And I think actually not even so, because the for battle royale it's normal to move around and not to be in a certain area or so on. But for these maps, the action is generally concentrated in some points of interest. No, I mean you will have players generally gathering at some point in an area. So bringing more would just decrease performance and would just bring us more complaints. So
Yeah.
that's not a solution, but hopefully. So the current we're still trying to check. I mean, after this week we'll have more information on this, but we're going to see if the fill rate is improving. Another big step that I think will be the biggest improvement in this regard is the crossplay when it will arrive. It's not next update, but it's pretty soon, or
Yeah.
I would say in the near future and so on. Near future.
Yeah,
Okay.
we've all been hyped for that. And something I will know is MC5 has quite a few it has quite a few maps. What is it? How many maps does it have?
Well, 9. I would say it's not so many, not so few, but one of the issues, or let's say one of the observations that we've made, especially with the latest maps, I guess, that includes the dual mode map and I guess conversion and well, museum. It seems to be quite appreciated, at least in ESL,
Yeah, it is.
but
Yeah.
not by the general player. So yeah, the thing is, like with the latest maps that we've introduced, none of them seem to become like a classic or a very beloved one. So um, or what do you or the viewers think are the most important ingredients for a map to become successful
Um,
for MC5 players, or what should it have?
I
And
think
just get a document to write these down.
so. I had a podcast where I talked with someone about that, and something that I think people like a lot are levels, and not levels like levels with I want to say levels, but not too many levels because rooftops has levels, but yeah, a lot of people don't like rooftops. I personally I like rooftops, but maybe these closer range maps, these really tight maps, like I'm gonna say rooftops again. Even conversions a little tight are maybe so popular because a really popular class nowadays would be Marauder, which is more of a closer range class. So I guess my question back at you is: do you think that because, or would you think that because people prefer a certain class or certain classes, or we have are certain classes at the top of a meta that would affect what people like in terms of maps?
Well, I haven't noticed a trend in this regard. That's the thing. So it's a very good question, but I mean, I would speculate it is so, and I see that the community is also saying so, but the numbers don't seem to indicate this. So this is what I'm wondering. Or let's to rephrase this question, what would I mean? Revisiting what do you think it would be worth revisiting these less popular maps and doing some complete design changes in order to make them more playable? One of the other reasons that I was thinking for people not voting at the end of the match, so people were saying that first of all they weren't getting a lot of options consistently, so we've also looked and updated that algorithm so that you have at least one choice from the maps that that were deemed unpopular, so that we can further test the hypothesis or try to get closer numbers to what the expressed opinion is. So that was the long question. Anyway, so the point was, what do you think? Do you think it's worth revisiting some of the maps, or do you think we should just focus on making new ones?
Um, I think we should. I think that you should focus on making new ones, and this is just my opinion. And that's because I would like to see something completely different, like something that's more maybe nature based, like a snow map or like a forest map, just something a little different. I've never really strongly disliked the maps to a point where I was like, hey, one needs to be removed. But I mean, I get it from a package size argument, like in terms of not having a really huge download. Because we face the same issue on iOS. A lot of people have that issue, especially with terrible internet. So I'm just curious to see what people in the comments think in terms of what we want for maps. Because I'm not seeing a lot of commentary regarding the maps on MC5.
Yeah, well, some people are just, I mean, I see quite a few making suggestions on what to remove and so on, and explaining
I
why
mean,
streets is eternal, but not necessarily this.
I mean,
So let me
I
check.
get comments on this every single stream with the same comments. The class isn't going to get removed. It's going to get modified. If you guys would love to make comments regarding how we can change a class, feel free to make those comments. Otherwise, you're really not helping. You're just spamming and wasting your time and my time.
Yeah, and it's already been mentioned that it's
Like
going to be.
like 50,000 times.
Yeah.
So like it's just if you guys have a comment of what you think needs to be changed about it, cool. In terms of removal, if you want to talk about removal, just go to some other chat or something. I don't want to hear about it. So, I see the maps are back. Are live? Are they live right now? Because I'm looking at.
No. Or
Oh, look at my
I
screen.
can see that. Yeah, I can see all of them in your screen. Yeah.
Yeah, that's weird. This is on Android.
Could check my Android as well.
Yeah.
Or I could check actually the iOS because that's where it was first implemented and so on. As far as I'm aware, they're supposed to be back on Friday, as I mentioned.
Let me check.
Or maybe they just tweak the option to make them available in just in custom games.
Let me check on iOS because when I checked yesterday, they wasn't available. Yeah, it's not available on iOS. I don't know how I have it then. Sweet.
I guess the Android devs went ahead and put it back faster, sooner.
Let's see.
This is just speculation, I guess.
Oh yeah, I see some custom matches for like museum and stuff. Sweet. Okay, cool. So it's already back on Android. So so for those of you who don't know, they are bringing back. Gameloft is bringing back the maps. All the maps are coming back by Friday. For those of you who did not know about that. So stop fretting, stop stressing out. It's coming. No big deal.
Yeah, and as I mentioned, we've also done some improvements to the end of the game voting feature so that they show up there more often and so on.
Yeah,
that was one of the main reasons.
So
by the way, you mentioned, and I see this mentioned quite a lot, nature. So nature maps do present a bit of a unique aspect. I'm wondering, I mean, I'm sure our video or our 3D artists can definitely come up with some ideas. But one of the challenges with making a proper nature map is the vegetation, actually.
Yeah.
So not in terms of designing it or whatever, making it, it's that due to the physics of it, it usually brings an extra load. And so like we're always trying to bring a smooth performance when possible. So this worries us that it would kind of affect lower end devices.
Okay.
While a snow map could work, I mean, shouldn't have any issue. The only thing I guess I would be considering is there aren't actually any white camos. Well, there kind of are, but I mean, you'd be very, very visible, I think, or noticeable on a snow map. I mean, I think it would be well, actually, I'm trying to think how you could cover
Maybe
it up. You could
adding
have good
fog,
camo.
maybe.
But isn't that the number one reasons
Yeah,
why
people
people
cry about rooftops.
rooftops? Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, and like I said, I've never really hated rooftops. I like it personally.
No, but I think it's also related to the performance. So I mean, as in fog, just as in any game,
Yeah,
is an extra
is
uh,
actually
I don't know, eater of resources, so to speak.
extra load on. I understand.
Yeah.
I just suggested those because we don't have any maps currently that are really like in any way nature based. That's why I was thinking something completely different instead of something that because we have a bunch of industrial type maps. That's kind of what I've noticed for the most part. We have a lot of them are industrial type, like construction,
So
conversion.
I was kind of wondering, like, I don't know, maybe it's not necessarily something that you can think of an answer, but you can try. I was wondering, like, for example, Scramble is such a popular map, while, as I said, from the results, and it's mentioned seldomly, Vantage, for example, is not. And I think the maps are sort of similar in a way. So this is what I'm thinking. I'm trying to identify some of the things that make a map more desirable than another one. So,
Like I said, well, I actually
and people,
talked to you whenever the maps were removed, and I was surprised. Vantage was actually one of the maps I was disappointed was removed. Because it is one of my favorite maps. So I don't get it.
yeah,
And neither. I mean, Scrambles is also super popular. I talked to my friends, and they were surprised Vantage and Museum were removed. Those two were liked at least within my group and within ESL players I know. So I guess Vantage has more. Vantage definitely has or appears to have more levels. Although Scramble technically has levels with those open roofs. But I think that Vantage has more levels, and I guess Vantage is better for snipers. That's what I think. Vantage is a better map for snipers than Scramble is. Because
yeah. I guess though you do have those spots on each side, like the elevation specifically, where you go up and up the
right,
stairs.
yeah, that's what I was referring to. Well, the thing about the stairs in Scramble is that when you go on top, you're when you go out to snipe on top of the stairs, you're pretty exposed in Scramble, and you can't really stay there too long on top of those elevated spots. In Vantage, you could technically camp upstairs all day if you really wanted to. I've done it, and so maybe people don't like that aspect of it. That there's not as much openness that people can camp. I guess. You're talking to someone who likes the map, so it's more difficult for
Yeah,
me.
yeah, I understand for sure.
So Mango
Well,
said
I'm asking.
remove Vantage. So Mango, you two, why remove Vantage? Like guys, if you guys don't like Vantage, can you tell us why? Because I'm actually genuinely curious to know why.
Yeah, that's the thing. It would help a lot if you guys can let us know why you like something or why you dislike something. Because other than that, it's just presenting to the devs. These people don't like it, But we have to know. Maybe we can change it, or so we don't do the same thing next time.
Right.
It's pretty hard to tell if the only thing you're telling us it's if you like or dislike something.
Yeah, because that's really the point of these conversations, and I think I've mentioned this time and time again. This podcast is for you guys to better communicate with the dev team. It's just another tool, really. So if you guys have any concerns, like actually stating why this is the place that you actually state why instead of more just tell what needs to be done, explain why.
Yeah. Mango YouTube says like introduce new tier 10 weapons for classes.
I don't think that's the answer, but okay.
I don't think
I don't think that's even related to the topic.
It's not at all. But
Maybe
This is
everybody's happy with the maps we have, but we don't need to make any new maps because I'm not really seeing too many comments regarding the maps.
well, I do see some, but like remove conversion, Canal's Vantage, or stuff like that. So
Yeah, I saw that, and yeah, from Mango. And then I saw
the Manowar from on Facebook, or
I'm looking at YouTube right now. I'm not even looked at
uh,
Facebook.
I'm
So
checking both, so no worries.
yeah, see, like I don't have a strong I personally don't have a strong dislike for the current maps in the standard gameplay that we have. In terms
Hmm.
of I'm curious, dude. How popular is Duel and how popular is the what is the game mode called? The Battle Royale. Yeah, I just remembered it without having to click it.
Yeah, well, both I mean, Battle Royale is more. I can't give you the exact numbers and they vary from platform to platform, but I can tell you that I guess Duel is the least played, and after that it's Battle Royale. But Battle Royale is not also accessible to a lot of players, and I think personally Battle Royale at the moment suffers a bit on the how should I
Performance.
say, incentive? No, incentive part, I guess.
Yeah, I can
It's
see that.
like there are just a few customs there to unlock, and maybe people don't feel motivated enough to go for it.
I can see that because anything you get in battle royale doesn't really apply to your main account. I mean, doesn't you can't use it in any other mode except battle royale, right?
Yeah. So it's a bit of but at the same time, this is one of the questions that the devs have been asking themselves as well. Is like if they should link the battle royale rewards to the normal ones, but at the same time, it's kind of a different game in a sense. I mean, uh, the concept itself. So if you would progress, if you're playing battle royale to progress your normal game, are you really interested in playing battle royale rather than playing the normal game to progress your normal game, so you just get better at whatever the game modes? Or are you a battle royale fan and that's what you want, that's where you want to get better, but the concept as of the game is, I mean, the battle royale is strictly skill wise, you or cosmetic, you can't bring advantages. It would make it kind of weird.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm thinking. I mean, I'm thinking just adding camos or something that are like can be earned and used throughout the entire game that are exclusive to battle royale. That's what I'm thinking in my head because battle royale. I mean, I play battle royale games, and from what I see, they are strictly cosmetic. There is no way you can earn money and I mean abuse money and get better. It's just having cool skins and stuff. So I don't know, maybe camos that you can earn by ranking up, maybe creating tiers of battle royale and exclusive camos you can get might motivate some people. Who knows?
Yeah, so what about that? Do you think, I mean, what about that? I haven't even mentioned exactly. So, what do you think about a Battle Royale like map, but actually it being like 30 players versus 30 players? So, like a massive sort of team battle, I guess, but with just one life.
How would the load be
What?
on that? That'd be my question. Is that like doable? Like without like causing everyone to start lagging and stuff? Um,
Well, as I mentioned, I think it depends on how you design the maps to kind of make players or incentivize players to spread out to a certain extent. Like even if you think in other games and in other maps, there are usually three, four at least ways that you can go, and it's you usually have to sort of spread your players rather than focusing all on one phase. So I think it could be doable. Yes,
hmm.
this is also why I'm asking.
Um,
But only at, as I said, a big enough map.
I think I think that I would come back or like respond to that with what if you incorporated battle royale more with squad battles, like squads can actually like work together. Maybe increase the size of squads. I don't know what the max is for squads actually. I couldn't tell you. Um,
You mean? But I at the moment one of the I mean, I think one of the major issues for players, and again, this I would also ask you guys, what do you think the reason behind is it seems players have a hard time to even get 3 people to join consecutively. So I don't know what's up with that. So in this regards, if you would have like 60 people in one squad, I think it's definitely not something that would be very usable for most players. So, but what I would see is having, I guess, 4 players, 3, 4 players. So like kind of like join as a squad, or
Yeah.
the popular modes in this kind of game mode. It's usually duo or even more than that, like trio or 4, right? So I guess that's something that we could have as well.
Yeah. That's maybe something that could be incorporated. I actually was surprised at the battle royale. It's still just a single player mode, right?
Yeah, essentially yes. But as I said, that may not be forever.
Right.
I can't I
Well,
have no official news on that, but I
I
can tell you that it hasn't been abandoned or anything.
yeah,
So
I think that if honestly, just a personal opinion, if you want it to be successful, it needs to be more than just a single player. That's just
yeah.
based on my experience. That's what makes battle royale games fun. At least to me, I don't have as much fun going around trying to survive by myself. Which is probably why I haven't really played the battle royale mode here. I focus more on the multiplayer aspect of it. So
Which is again, this sounds a bit, I mean, or it's a bit hard for me to understand. So on one hand, players do tend to play free for all rather than team battle when they play alone, right? Or like from our data, free for all is the most popular mode, followed by team battle,
really,
essentially.
I don't
Yeah.
play free for all very often. The only time I play free for all is if there's an event like like one of the the pro not the pro tournament, but like one of those tournament events where you can earn blueprints. So
Yeah.
that's the only time I'll ever do a free for all match. But in terms of multiplayer, I rarely play it. So that's
Interesting.
interesting. I mean, that's just personal. Maybe I'm an outlier. Who knows?
Oh well, yeah. The thing is, you're also, I mean, you're also playing in ESL, and you are interested in the team mode. I
Yeah,
think more
more
in
right.
general.
Yeah,
I can see in the chat quite a few people recommending maps from Counter-Strike, I guess. Some of them I know, some of them I don't, but you have to understand also that the design for MC5 is a bit different than that of the Counter-Strike. I mean, we do have the rush mode, which is kind of like Counter-Strike, I guess, in a way.
I don't play that
But
game, so I don't
generally,
know. I'm trying to look it
well,
up right now.
uh, what rush? But it was one of the tiebreakers on ESL.
No, what
So,
Counter Strike is because I don't use it.
ah,
I don't play it.
okay,
The
okay,
graphics don't look that great on it, which I guess
yeah.
would make it be able to play
Yeah,
different maps.
it's just a classic, I guess, in a way. But it's, as I said, different weapons, different mechanics, speeds, and so on. So it's not it doesn't really work to just take a map. Aside from, I guess, I don't know, the developer pride to not steal something and make something of your own.
Right.
I guess, right? For that works for your game.
So yeah, just I mean,
So as I'm
like I said, I've not had a huge issue with the current maps, and I don't even know if that's I didn't think that was such a big deal. That's what a lot of people wanted, but I guess people do care about new maps. I've seen it mentioned in a few of my podcasts. But okay,
Yeah, again, I can see things like maps with ruins or desert or jungle. So I get this, and it's totally cool. And I definitely think in some way, as I said, I think the jungle idea is something that's less feasible technically. I just told you because I think it would be very challenging thing to do as to not affect performance, which is something that we we really have to be careful with anything that we introduce. I mean, for example, if you look at Battle Royale, just upgrading the textures on the areas and remaking them, we ended up realizing that we had to remove some lower end devices on Android and so on, and that's a bit sad, right? So
Have you considered like creating like a lower like graphics mode or something like that of the game so that it could run on lower end devices? I mean, I don't need it, but I'm just curious for other people.
we do, but it's also a technical thing. So it's basically when you enter the game, you're loading. I mean, you're loading everybody's loadout so that you can see them. I don't know if it makes a lot of sense. So when you have a map like with 60 players and 60 different loadouts, add that like the load on the graphics card and on the CPU from all the textures, and you have a very very small how should I say, like a window to move in terms of how you can adjust performance, because since you have a certain number of players and so on, it's like you can't cut down on those. You still have to load them, even if you make them as simple as possible. It's just that they're there loaded at all times. I don't know. I do think that I'm not actually responding the right way to these. As I said, I think I'm getting a bit too technical without actually myself understood. So I'll maybe think about it for
Okay.
later.
Sweet. Yeah, I was just curious about that. People are still mentioning the jungle thing. I get that, the loading all the trees and stuff. I was just thinking something different. I mean, if there were going to be new maps, maps have never really been something I've thought of like, oh, we need more of. I've always, you already know, I've always just wanted cross-platform play at some point down the line. So that's really my only interest. Maps are fine in my opinion, and I'm seeing a few comments regarding the maps, but not. I don't see it enough. Like especially in my podcast, I don't see people mention, "Oh yeah, like we definitely need more seen people mention new weapons. I've seen people mention removing stuff. I mean, stuff like
And
that.
well, and you know, people I've also noticed quite a while, and you even had that episode. So I know people are also looking forward to new game modes, and this is
Yeah.
again so the same thing with both maps and game modes. My concern is how to how to make these in the way that you guys want them. So because so like for example for the dual map, we had you guys choose the
I
like the
remember that.
context or the general theme and so on. But the game mode itself, I guess, is not. I think it's also because of the visibility. Again, with I find dual mode also a pretty puzzling feature that's not being used as much as I would expect. You know, as I think players do want to show their individual skills against others, and I do know that they are creating games like that specifically. I do know that the maps are much smaller, but I think that's what.
Yeah, they don't need to be huge
Yeah.
for one-on-ones. I played duel when it first came out. It was pretty fun. I mean, and then when I played High Roller, I mean, it was a lot of fun. I enjoyed High Roller as well. I think that on my account, my rating's a little too high to see people anyway. So, when it comes to High
No.
Roller, but yeah, I mean, it's an okay concept. I mean, there are rewards for playing it too, and it's a shorter. It's a much faster paced game, but I always stick to multiplayer, and I maybe it's just because it's bored. I don't know if people find it boring or what. With duel.
Uh, I don't know. I don't think it's. I think some just don't know where it is. I guess, or they're not aware. Or I mean, it's. I think it's again. It's a sort of domino effect. If there aren't people playing it enough. People are a few try and they don't find it. It's kind of like, I don't know, in an empty restaurant or something. If you see people eating there, then
Right.
more people come. If it's not, it's kind of stays that way.
Good point.
So I can see on Facebook something that was also brought on the recent stream. So Peter says, "Hello guys, is there ever been discussion of making the maps modular, where different parts of the map would be used for different modes? For instance, a canal's CTF might have different areas blocked off than a TDM." We're actually, I mean, that was suggested. It's actually much more complicated. I mean, when I talked to the devs, I thought this wouldn't be such a hard thing, but it's actually a bit complicated, since I guess you would have a higher fragmentation as well. So it's not impossible, but it's not necessarily okay. So shameless plugin. Kidding. So it's not impossible, but it's definitely not something that we intend to do or see us doing in the very near future, unfortunately. So it would be easier for us just to simply do a new map. So my question was before, like, do you think that, I mean, having a popularity vote on the theme could definitely improve the chances of it being a popular map? But what do you think? What else could we get from the players, or what else do you guys suggest that we ask you to how should I say this, to make it a success? I guess, because I know this is the only thing that I would feel pretty sad about, is that it's like we're making this with your input, but the end result is not something that most of you like. So
Yeah. Like I said, I did have a video. I had a discussion. I forgot who it was with. I had a discussion regarding the maps. I want to say it was
no,
either.
I was there. I think it was right? Or
I want to say it was either Uno. I want to. I'm pretty sure it was Uno.
yeah,
And
I was watching.
we discussed levels really being a factor. Um, but
But in this case, what I'm asking is, what steps from I guess from a communication or community dialogue point of view do you think we're not taking at the moment, and we should when discussing future content or possible future content? Maybe I
really,
think it's a pretty hard question to think up on the spot, I guess, so for sure. But if you guys in the chat, you have any ideas, you're like, you guys you're never doing that, you should be doing that,
you're
go
right.
ahead and tell us. So
Yeah, now's the time.
I see again some other players again asking about the Marauder thing. Guys, as mentioned, please read the post, and you should not be concerned that we will be trying to buff the other classes to match it. But it will be the Marauder taken down a peg. So in that case, you shouldn't worry about other alternative solutions, I think.
No, I see some people mentioning like older weapons, how I guess they're reminiscing. Some people are reminiscing, some people are just complaining. Like Mehmet's talking about how some weapons used to be really good, like the Red 34, the Boss. The Boss is actually still good. The Red's decent. The Jolt used to be my weapon of choice too. It's no longer good anymore. I do miss some of those lower tier weapons, but at the same time, we have lower tier weapons for a reason. There's a reason why there's a tier system. Something to kind of keep in mind. A tier 7 weapon should be better than a tier 3 or tier 2. Just the way it works. Roundtables on the ESL team leaders to discuss maps. I see Counterfeit asking, what do you guys think about having a round table with some of the ESL team leaders to discuss maps? I don't know. I think that would be a good thing and a bad thing. A good thing being that we would be talking to people who are experts in the game that could probably provide some great input. But we'd also be excluding a lot of the community. But that's not a terrible idea, really, because I would think that a lot of the people who play ESL would have a more or a better idea of what exactly they want to see in a map, at least from a competitive standpoint.
Yeah, definitely. I'll just write this down.
Yeah.
So, but one thing, uh, I guess this is a good part and the bad part, I think, about the game. As I mentioned in the beginning, that you basically have each mode on each map. I think maybe in this case, we should maybe reduce the amounts of available modes on each map, and that way you can do better a better tweaking. I mean, because like in this suggestion, we would be talking with these guys, but they would simply, I mean, they would strictly refer to team battle. So any changes that would affect other modes would not be taken into account, and it could potentially break some other modes. So, what do you think about that? Like having so like with duel, you for duel you have two maps that are only for duel, and that's all you can play them. So, what do you think about having, I don't know, I guess all maps available for team battle, but only just a few available for capture the flag or zone control or VIP and so on? I mean, VIP, I think it's kind of. I mean, for VIP, I think you can again. I think you can have it on any map because it's just, I think, a variation in itself to team battle, right?
Um, I like the idea. I think that would fix the issue I mentioned earlier. Well, some of the issues. For example, I'm gonna go back to canals because it's a large map. Having CTF on canals is it it makes the game makes the game pretty difficult. In terms of reads, run all the way across and go to the other side of the map. It's a huge, like, it's not like the other maps where you can, you have time to go recapture the flag or something. Like with canals is it's so far. Um, the flag is so far apart. I can see that being successful. I think that people would enjoy that. Um, but what about are the dual maps way too small to be to like incorporate to any other game modes? What are your thoughts on
Uh,
that?
Sorry,
Are
can you say that again? Because I was reading through the comments. Sorry.
You're fine. Are the dual maps like too small to incorporate into other game modes?
Uh, yeah, definitely. I mean, you could scale them, I guess. I mean, as in
Yeah, just
duplicate or replicate and so on. But what is the point really of having that in an? I
I
mean,
guess
we were talking about restricting it rather than having it available in more. Though I I did hear this suggestion before, for example, especially for the second map that we've introduced, so not the first one. So the desert-like map that people would like to see it in a team battle, but obviously scaled up.
okay. I'm trying to read through the comments as well.
Yeah, I can see this. There's a player on Facebook, Xavier Perlu, um, and he says that he should have a say because he's playing every day and so on.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, oh, but he's talking about hackers and the need to remove them and so on.
Yeah.
Guys, we're also stuff on that.
Fun fact,
So
guys. I don't think they purposefully let hackers play in the game. Just throwing
well,
it out there. I'm pretty
anyways,
confident. I could be wrong, but I'm
I don't
pretty
think
darn sure.
anybody
Yeah.
likes hackers in the
In
game.
any
To be
game,
honest.
in any game, really. I don't think that developers really ever encourage it, or allow it. That's not how it works. Oh, I see what you're saying. Um, New modes on SB would be nice. I see someone mentioning that on Facebook. I think that didn't we had captured the flag, and people were actually complained a lot about that game mode. But maybe maybe that should be revisited too. If we're going into game modes and maybe just allowing more for SB.
More game modes for SB. I think maybe a complete rework, to be honest, for SB is
Okay.
something that we'll be looking
Okay.
forward to. I can't really discuss that at the moment.
Okay.
Um, but when I can, I'll surely bring it here. So no worries. Be the first to know.
Alrighty. I'm just trying to see if you guys have any more suggestions regarding maybe not so much of the removal, more like what you guys want or what you guys like to see in maps. Just so we can work, you can help the developers work on something that we would like as players. Yeah, I don't see
Oh wow,
it.
Xavier actually saying that conversion is the best map. You're the first guy I hear saying that lately, and
Probably be the only guy.
it's interesting.
Like I said, I personally don't have a problem with any of the maps. There's no map where I'm like, gosh, I wish this wasn't here. I mean, each person has their strengths and weaknesses, and I think people will probably pick maps that cater to their strengths and weaknesses, anyways. So,
What do you think if we would have basically you would have recommendations for classes for maps for certain maps? Do you think
like a pop-up recommendation, or like
yeah, like I don't know, best suited for these kinds of map, like short range or whatever. You can like best maps for this are this, and this. And I think, do you think players would be willing to see and learn the strengths of that class on different maps, or do you think it's more like
I think they're
whatever?
I think people are gonna use whatever they think is best or what they think is they're best at. I don't know if recommendations would really have an impact on players, like in-game recommendations. If it forced a player to play a certain class, that'd be different. But in terms of recommendations, I don't think people would really follow him. So, yeah. I don't see. I don't see any commentary regarding maps.
No, someone is asking if the crossplay is happening in update 30. As I mentioned specifically, no, it's not happening in update 30. The thing is, it's not only the development. To be honest, it will be once implemented. I think it will have some issues for sure, as it's such a big transition to have the accounts and so on. So we're waiting for it. You guys are waiting for it, but also be ready for a bit of suffering for I guess a week at least. Hopefully none, but I would see it as the kind of thing that could break some profiles.
Yeah.
Someone say Simon ESL is saying rooftops is like museum, nothing special. It's like a mirrored map. So I don't really get what does he mean with mirrored, because I mean I think especially rooftops is definitely not
I think by mirrored he means like symmetrical, like one end
yeah, this is what I mean, but
that.
it's I mean, where's the symmetry? Where's the symmetry, since it's a map that's basically the biggest part is that it has two levels, and the outer level is very different from the inside, I would say, in terms of both positioning and cover options and pathways, I guess, spawn points and so on. I mean, if I would think of a relatively symmetrical, though, it's I guess even Vantage or and those. I mean, because there you have like you could draw a line, but the bases are still quite different. So
that's the first person I've ever heard mention that being the complaining about a map being I mean, sort of symmetrical. So if that's what you guys dislike about maps, now's the time to speak up, because I've never really seen that. I've actually never really thought about that. That's an interesting point, but I don't know if that really matters to a lot of people. Yeah. Hashtag's asking about the fog, and
I can see a lot of I can see a lot of people talking about that. It's actually a pretty interesting story about that. I'm not really actually sure that I can share it, but I think it it should be okay. So basically, the reason for the fog is there, is that the higher level in like the upper level in terms of how it's constructed, um, you can't make because it's a relatively small space, because you have that flat area in the middle, which is the helipad or whatever you call it, and you just have the outer area to move. So there's not a lot of space to actually put that many covers without making it seem like just like an obstacle course and so on. So the smoke is there to provide some sort of soft cover, or to allow you to advance, because again, like people that are upstairs definitely could see you too easily otherwise. I think it just makes the map too simple or unplayable, or basically very skewed towards just staying on the platform and then looking around to find targets. So that's let's say I don't know, strategic depth, or how you want to call it, reasoning behind it. I mean, this is the kind of thing that I can suggest to devs. I am definitely curious.
I think it's a terrible idea to remove the fog from rooftops, because rooftops is so small. And if, like you said, if you're on the helicopter pad, I mean, you have view of everything without any fog.
Yeah.
I think it would be completely unfair. Maybe it would make people utilize the smoke grenades, maybe, if people have them. But I think that would make that map extremely unfair to whoever's not on the top of that pad. People still fight for the top of the helicopter pad, but it would just be a way too big of an advantage without the fog there, because the map is so small. And I mean, it also helps people utilize like maybe thermal scopes, which I don't see many people use. That rooftops, the fog there gives the thermoscope purpose as well. I think night mode in the streets is helping with it too. Like, just kind of like people can utilize different things now. So speaking of night mode in streets, how do you guys like the night mode in streets? Do you guys find it interesting? Do you guys not care? Do you guys want to see that in other maps, like a night mode?
Yeah, I was also interested in that actually. Question. By the way, the guy that I can't pronounce his name is talking about the MMR, and that's kind of unlikely what you're saying, but you can contact customer care. It's something that I didn't expect. And some people talking about buffing the weapons, but guys, the main topic here is maps. I guess we could at some point, if you think, but there are 106 or more weapons. I think that that could take more episodes.
I don't think we should. I mean, see, this is my old account where I used to use a Jolt back in the day. I mean, I don't know if we should. I don't think we should add a tier 10 right now. I mean, I just don't.
For sure. No.
I don't think it's
what I meant is like to discuss if some weapons are still too weak for their tier, to discuss which ones those are, and maybe have in that sense have.
Maybe I'm biased, but I think the Jolt. I mean, the tier 3 weapons suck in general. I mean, compared to the tier 7, they're not going to be good.
Well, obviously, but no, I'm saying these tier 3s compared to other tier 3s. I would go within maybe.
Let's check the inventory.
By the way, it kind of. Do you guys on Facebook still see us? Okay, now it's back. I think there was a small hiccup, I guess.
Okay. I think. I mean, from what I'm looking at, the tier 3s are pretty consistent. I mean, except for maybe. Actually, no, I take that back. I mean, like the morph tier. There's certain weapons here and there, but I've not heard many people talk about. More people talk about the lower tier weapons being useless now, which I understand why they aren't as powerful as the higher tier weapons. But it kind of makes me sad, because that means my arsenal's. Even though I have all these weapons, my arsenal is really not that large. I mean, because I'm not going to use I'm not going to use a tier 1 or tier 2 pistol. If I have the Lux Eterna or the Judgment, or any of these higher tier weapons, I'm not going to, I'm not going to use like a lower tier sniper, because it's just not going to kill people one
Yeah,
shot.
yeah, I
So
definitely understand that, and
that's what
that
that's
is
what they're
that is
saying.
definitely something that we're looking into. So
Yeah,
just to, I mean, the weapons will never be, you won't be able to have all weapons as viable, like 106 weapons to have them as viables, and tiers will always be, I mean, one tier will always be better, or at least slightly better than the other. But I think so when you're looking, like you were comparing tier 3 to tier 7, but I
yeah,
think something like having tier 3 compete with tier 5, or tier 5, or like, let's say tier 1 would be something, you'd have tier 2, 2 and 3 competing with each other, 4 and 5, 6 and 7, and 8 and 9 for prestige. So I guess in that sense that you could balance them around within a 1 tier difference,
mm.
and then somehow have people matched according to that. I think that's the most viable solution at the moment. So just to Counterfeit was asking if there's any work being done on trying to take away spawn traps on, for example, rooftops. But that's a very funny question that you mention, Counterfeit, because the spawn trap on rooftops has been dealt with by probably 2 or 3 updates ago. I would like to say, I mean, I can probably check, but it's definitely been in for a while. So do let me know if you're still encountering it in this update. It's something that I'd be surprised to learn.
Yeah. Mm. So I see the top. I see people. I guess people do like the night mode.
Yeah, but yeah.
If you guys want to see it on another map, let us know. I think maybe scrambles would be neat or something like that to have a night mode. Um, but just kind of curious to see what people think. Um, yeah. Well, I think that I guess that pretty much wraps it up, guys. Um, if you
Yeah,
guys,
just to answer one or two more question, if that's
sure,
okay.
sure.
Then let's wrap it up. So Gabriel on Facebook is asking how many maps are coming up, I guess. Funny that you mentioned it, as in how many maps is coming up. There is one map coming up in the, like that's we're taking them one at a time, so I can't guarantee, I can't say we have planned more than one map at the moment, but that's the plan for now. um let's see what else. Night, so they like guys, you say that you like night mode. Do you think we should add night mode to uh other maps? I think that's something that we'll be looking forward to. Oh, and one more thing, but I'm not sure if you guys are still around now, I guess, and you have time to answer this. If not, we'll leave it for another one. Would you like to see a map that has a sort of mechanic to it? So let's say like there's where that uh, turns, uh, I don't know, it fills the room, like the lower room, and basically if there are players there, they have some time and they have to get out of there, or they will die there, or have it activate some elevator somewhere or something like this. So that where there would be these, I guess,